Welcome to the Grow Fast podcast, where we talk with leading sales, marketing, and personal growth experts about how companies can accelerate sales, optimize marketing, and grow their businesses fast. Let's go.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Great. Hi, Mark.
Hey. I'm up in Seattle, Washington. It's about sunny and 75 degrees. Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in Denver today, and it is beautiful. Normally, I'm in awesome. Phoenix, and it's way too hot, so I'm super happy to be in Denver today.
Yeah, Phoenix is like, I love to visit about eight months out of the year, but the other 4 months can be a bit warm. I got invited to a pool party there. We were traveling through the area in a motorhome, and they said, "Oh, come to our house in Phoenix. We're going to come to a pool party." It's like, pool party, awesome. And it was in like August. And don't go to a pool party in August in Phoenix because it's like a bath. That's all it was. It was like a very warm bath. And Sheila, you have a tremendous amount of experience. Oh, I think we're getting some laggy issues. So I'm just going to take an edit here. Man, six seconds. Sheila, you have a tremendous amount of experience with marketing. You've been running your own marketing agency for, I think, about 20 years, right?
25.
25 years. Okay. So I'd like to talk to you today about some of the changes that you've seen in the B2B marketing landscape in terms of tactics, strategies, tools. There's this thing called AI, and what's that all about? And then I want to talk to you about like how companies are adapting to some of the more recent changes. But maybe we can start with that. When you started your agency 25 years ago, what were some of the key marketing, I guess, activities? And how have things changed over especially the last 5 years or so?
Sure. Well, in 2000, so our agency turns 25 next month in September, which is pretty exciting. And in 2000, when I started this agency, we had just gone through the .com bubble burst. So the internet was new. Yep. People were starting to advertise. In fact, I had been one of the first advertisers on the web, with the first advertiser on GoTo, which Yahoo bought, which gave Google the idea for Google AdWords. So I've been doing this a long, long time. So, in those days, I used to go and talk to companies and say, you should market online. This is really important. Search engines are important. And they would say, are you sure my customers are online? It's a very different time. Today with AI, it feels a lot like that, where literally everything about marketing is changing. And for companies, if they're not thinking about how to leverage AI differently, they're simply going to be left behind. And I'll give you some examples. So if a company is currently running Google ads and doing SEO, about half of your audience is no longer using the source that you thought, Google ads or organic search in Google, because half of your audience is now using ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or another AI chat engine. And those chat engines are changing really quickly, where they are now incorporating chat into search. So we're going to see it go back up a little bit. And it's really important that you're available in both search and in AI. But most companies don't know how to have their results show up in AI. So, for example, we do a lot of search engine optimization and what we now call GEO or AEO, generative AI engine optimization. And it's really powerful. I mean, for those who are adopting it first, it's kind of like it was in the early days of the internet. For people who adopt it first, you can grab market share, which is great. And in order to do that, you need to have really helpful content. So if you're used to doing lots of salesy stuff, your listings aren't going to show up as well. If you have lots of frequently asked questions, so think about how people use AI chat. They're usually looking for helpful information. And so and just a very detailed example for lots of our clients, we're adding more frequently asked questions at the bottom of services pages or product pages. Because if you're going to buy a product, you want to know, how does it work? Does it wear out? What's the warranty? If you're buying a service, you want to know, do I have to pay for this every month, or do I just pay for it one time? Those kinds of things. And so it's kind of the wild, wild west again, which is fun. And for those companies taking advantage of it, they can really do very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I agree with you. It's kind of wide open right now, and whoever can kind of crack the algorithmic puzzle to or code to understand what the engines are looking at, so that you can optimize your content in a manner that it gets picked up for the results, or by ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of those other LLMs. But you mentioned FAQs. What are some of the other things that they are looking at?
Well, I mean, just think about how you're probably using AI. You're using AI for information. You're using AI for automation, if you're more advanced. And you're using AI to help with research, all kinds of those things. So if you just take a look at your business, and that's what we do. We offer a fractional CMO plus team model where you get, like, lots of companies can't afford to have a senior level head of marketing in their company. And so we offer a service where companies can get a part-time head of marketing, seasoned, I or one of my other fractional CMOs, and we can develop a strategy for you to put together your marketing plan to leverage AI. And so one of the things we do is we look at, so who are your buyers? What kinds of information, what kinds of questions are they asking? And how best can we reach them? So that's not new. That's what we've been doing in marketing for many years. Who's your target market? What should the strategy be get in front of them? And then how can we zero in on their pains and provide a solution? So most websites, for example, just say what the company does. And so if you have a website that says, I do these 12 things, and the customer who goes to your website says, okay, so I'm at the website and I see that they do this 12 things, and I have these 2 needs, and I kind of think that maybe they could help me. If you're asking your customer to do that many mental gymnastics to figure out whether you're a fit, then they're likely to leave. So what we do is we really focus on how can we determine the pain points of the buyers, and then how can we leverage all different kinds of tools to get in front of them. So AI is one of those sets of tools that you can use to get in front of your audience. And today we have lots of tools that we didn't even have a year and a half or 2 years ago. So we can leverage AI to answer questions. So if you get lots of questions, if your salespeople are getting lots of questions, convert those into blog articles, convert those into guest blog posts that link to your website, share those in your social media. If you're the type of company where you have an e-commerce site, think about what are all the questions that happen. Like, you've probably spent a bunch of time narrowing down that buying cycle in your e-commerce platform and getting them to buy and figuring out what all those, that buyer journey should be. But think about, what if I had to emulate that off of my e-commerce website? And so AI can even help you figure that out. AI can help you figure out how to reach out. If you're in B2B and you have had a telemarketing agency, for example, AI can do that for you. It can call people 24 hours a day. It can take incoming calls. There's so many ways that you can automate your entire process and have it work 24 hours a day.
I totally agree with you. And I want to get into all of those. But I do want to go back to the whole GEO or AEO, which you referred to. And because I think this is, whoever can crack this puzzle, obviously it's going to be a changing landscape, but if you can be the first that really crack it and understand it, as a marketing agency, you have just a huge potential upside here. Now, I from the research that I've done, and I look at ChatGPT, Perplexity, and others, they're all slightly different and nuanced. But they're looking at things like, okay, the content on your website, that's one. And then the question is, for content on the website, do you write for the search engine or do you write for the visitor? Okay. So I put that in the parking lot for a second, but that's only a one part of what they look at is the content on the site. They'll also look at, are you appearing on software review sites? How many positive reviews do you have? So are you on G2? Are you on Capterra? Are you on some of these other sites? And those sites can also be gamed as well. So there are reputation management agencies out there that can help you improve your presence on those websites. So it's a big pay to play thing, right? Are you, have you written articles for Forbes Business Council and other quote unquote credible pay for play organizations, and so on and so forth? There's really a lot, even Reddits. They'll look at Reddits and say, how many Reddits are, how many times does your organization appear in Reddits? We at Breeze, we publish an RFP, or we produce an RFP response platform. And, we want to be in the results for, what's a good RFP response tool, and when people type that into ChatGPT, et cetera. And then, so, we kind of reverse engineer who's there and how they got there. And so those are some of the things that we've seen, which a marketing agency can help you with. But what is that it? Or are there other parts of the recipes? What's the other part of the secret sauce to get ranked in those LLMs when somebody does a search?
Such a good question. And all the things you mentioned are really useful. So being in review sites, being in Reddit, all of those things are additional sources for an LLM to have information about you. So one of the things I would say about all the things that you already have is make sure that your listings are updated. It's one of the biggest challenges nowadays is that if they're not updated regularly, then the LLM is going to give you false information. Right. So that's one of the things. But if you think about what an LLM is looking for, they're looking for information that goes with the prompt. And in a prompt, you typically get a little more information than you used to get in Google search, which was primarily a keyword. And so you got to sort of now use your process to reverse engineer. What do you think people would have in their prompts? And provide information and have it in way more sources than you've had before. So many people stopped doing PR, for example, because press releases would only live in Google for 30 days. But today, if you're doing press releases and podcasts and you're out there doing webinars and you're putting content on YouTube, those are all additional sources. And guess what? If you want to show up in Google, Google prefers YouTube. But if you're then in YouTube, you want to make sure that you have long descriptions with lots of information. You want to make sure that your videos are being transcribed and have captions. All of those things are things that LLMs can find. So, it used to be that you just had to show up in search. Now you should need to show up in all the places that search and LLMs can find you.
Do you think that we're going to get to a point where the LLMs will start charging, they'll have their own ad model?
Possibly. It feels like over my 30 years of doing this that, or actually a little longer, that, everything comes back to advertising. Netflix and Prime are having fewer subscribers. So guess what? They're leveraging advertising more. So eventually things will come back to advertising. But I don't know that that'll happen right now because the LLMs are flush with cash and doing different kinds of deals.
And they want to get users. It's like Facebook, no ads forever. And then once they capture the world, now we're inundated with ads.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's go back to some of these other tools that startups can leverage to help them with kind of some more traditional labor-intensive marketing activities.
Yeah. So, AI is really powerful because there are AI tools to help with content planning, to help with content generation, to help with creating social media posts and making them personalized. The really great thing about AI is that it can help with personalization a great deal. And for example, let's say you're doing an outbound email campaign. You can use a platform like reply.io, and it can pull in personalized email based on a template that you have. And it can even use AI to do follow up once you get responses. So AI can become a, uh, a multiplier in terms of the number of team members that you have. For example, you can use a voice agent. One of them that we love is called SynthFlow, because they have really natural voices. And the way that they leverage the LLMs is that it sounds really natural, and you can have an outbound agent ask the same qualifying questions that your SDR used to ask in a very powerful way, and have the results drop right into your CRM. So it couldn't be a better time to start a startup or to expand your startup and leverage these tools to get traction in a way that you used to have a lot of people to do.
At what point do we just get to singularity where everybody's making so much amplified noise that nobody's responding to anything? Because, and I say that because we've been both through it, where we used to pick up the phone and call, and then there was a brief period where we would fax people, and then because they had their fax numbers in this thing called the Yellow Pages,
Right.
which people don't remember the Yellow Pages, but that was before the internet, and then. And then it was email, and then it was, because you have all the spam filter for the email, and then it was LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, I was saying I was having great success on LinkedIn up until about, 5 years ago, where I could actually, I would get 1 or 2 responses a day from outbound efforts. And my email efforts at that time were not automated at all. It was just like I would target, individuals, send a very personalized message. Right. But now even those things, because people are just getting so many messages. So, how do you break through the noise? Will we be able to? Or are we just going to get to the point where everybody blocks everything and they're like, I'm not going to talk to you unless I know you or somebody introduces you or I meet you at an event or something?
It's a really good question. And people have been asking me that for a lot of years. So I think anytime there's a new method, people question that. Like, is it going to be too much? There is a tremendous amount of noise right now. And so we have to think about experiences. So, I don't know, like for many of our clients, we will do virtual summits. So it's actually like a conference that you would pay to go to. But you can sign up virtually. You can have people from all over the world. We just did one a month ago with 100,000 people from 63 countries and 23 languages. Really impactful program. People said their lives were changed as a result of it. And it enabled people to have an experience and feel close to our client in a way that they would have had to fly there. And it was offered for free. So it was an incredible lead generator that they're now inundated for the rest of next year because of doing this virtual event. So I think it's important to just think about what is the experience that you're trying to provide. So if I have an RFP generator, like what is that total experience? Like I'm in my business, I'm trying to figure out how can I get some help, and I need to figure out how to get my best RFP for this particular solution in my company. In the old days, we would have called a consultant, right? Right.
Yep.
And so my thought for you is, how can you emulate that experience of calling a consultant? Whereas for the last 5 years, we've probably tried to automate the whole thing and make it as easy and seamless as possible. But if there are lots of automated online RFP generators out there, if you can have an experience, kind of go back to the old days of, what if I actually got somebody to get some help? Because your competition for an RFP generator is going to be an LLM who can generate your RFP for you if you get your prompt right. And so what I would want to do is go for the audience that hasn't fully adopted AI, still has questions, sort of longs for the time when we had some help, and create maybe an experience around it. And then for those who, millennials are the largest group of decision makers in businesses today. So for those digital natives, you want a digital experience, but how can we have AI help them have that experience? I mean, I sort of compare it to like mental health, that there are now LLMs that are providing same kind of counseling information that you could get from a licensed therapist. And some people really like that. And so to me, it's always about segmenting. Who are the people who like this way of delivering whatever it is that I have? And who are the other people who would like it a different way? And it's different than just segmenting who would come to my site and like it the way that I've provided, but how could I change the experience even to reach more people?
Yeah, totally makes sense. And congratulations on the success for that event. You had 100,000 people around the world participate. Can I ask what type of product or service your customer is selling?
Yeah, so they sell coaching and training for meditation and helping business leaders live in a beautiful state so they can make good decisions and grow their companies.
Awesome. Sounds like a very, very worthwhile investment. And I think that kind of an event, as long as you're providing real value or information, I think there still is room for that. So that's great. Maybe you can share like a super successful kind of marketing effort in addition to the one that you just talked about. Maybe something else where you used kind of another unique approach.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's working really well for us right now are those AI agents that I mentioned. So, I talk to CEOs and founders all the time who are like, sales is just hard. It's hard to get people to pick up the phone. It's hard to, email isn't performing as well as it did. And so, what we offer is a program that has AI outbound calling combined with outbound email. And in some cases also combines with outbound text and outbound WhatsApp, depending on the audience. And so by hitting people up in different ways with different channels, you tend to get better response. That's one way that we handled that event and got so many people. And so we've had, for B2B clients that are, used to getting, a dozen leads a month, or, they're wildly happy with a dozen to 20 leads a month. We've been able to triple or quadruple the number of leads they've had because we're reaching people in a very integrated way with different types of outreach that work 24 hours a day.
How do you profile the people that you want to reach? Is it basically company size, region, job description?
Yeah, we start with who's the decision maker, who's the buyer. And then you have in B2B, you have a buying committee. So we need to be really clear as who's going to make the ultimate decision and then who else is going to influence that. And we want to target them differently with different messaging. So content is really, really important. And AI is great in terms of helping to differentiate the message for those different audiences. And then once you have that, you use a subscription service to find those contacts, whether it's ZoomInfo or Apollo or just in every platform, even if you're on HubSpot today, they offer data services. And so figure out where are those people? Who are those people? Do you sell internationally? Do you need to do this outside the United States? Is it just in the United States? Do you just want to target, Washington and Arizona first, the states that we're in? And then figure out a strategy for reaching out and then give them something of tremendous value that really goes to the pain of where they are today. And that requires some planning up front. So for example, I do a webinar each month, and it's learn the new ways to market that your CEO peers are using to get outsized business results. And so we get a tremendous number of CEOs who join just to hear what are those things that they maybe didn't learn about. And it goes back to what I did in 2000 when I started this company. I would go around and say, come to my seminar, and 100 people would come, and most of them would get 5 or 8 things that they could do on their own. And 5 of them would say, oh gosh, this SEO thing seems too hard. Why don't you just do it for us? And so I could screen out 95 or 94 of the people. I could screen in 5 or 6 of the people to become clients. And that was a very efficient way to get new clients.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with this webinar that I do today, 25 years later. It's just the channel is a little different. It's delivered virtually.
Mm-hmm. And I think you have a LinkedIn newsletter as well, right?
Uh-huh. So we do LinkedIn webinars. We have a newsletter that we do through LinkedIn. We're still very bullish on LinkedIn, although there is a lot more noise there than it used to be. And it's important that you just provide real value in any channel that you're marketing.
Could you provide some? Could you give some additional examples of how to provide excellent value? I mean, you're doing a webinar where you're providing a lot of information regarding marketing strategies. What else? What have some of your customers done to deliver value to their prospective audiences?
Well, I think we have the procurement industry, and there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of fear around tariffs, all kinds of things. And so doing briefing calls to help their customers understand what's happening in the procurement space and how that might help them. Those briefing calls have been amazing and incredibly well attended, but you've got to have somebody really knowledgeable on those events, for example. We also have been having great success with hybrid events where typically, post-COVID, people are now coming out to conferences and things, but you also have people whose budgets have been cut and they can't come to events. So combining and making a conference both virtual and in person can be really helpful.
Cool. It's funny because we did a bunch of webinars where we had some RFP consultants come in and talk about RFP response best practices. And you get the event itself, but you also get the content that you generate from the event. And so, it's, if you are smart about it, you can kind of use it multiple different ways.
Absolutely. Because you have that content and you can slice it up for social media. I think one of the things that happens a lot is people think that whatever content they have, if people paid to get it, then you need to keep it private. And the reality is you can make that content available in lots of different ways and segment it. And just because they've heard it doesn't mean they're actually going to do it. They may actually, and most likely they'll still need your help, even if they have or haven't paid for it. And so repurposing content is incredibly important, and AI helps with that these days.
Absolutely. So let me go back to that question I had earlier where I said I'll put it in the parking lot, and that was, should you create a lot of content on your website so that the search engines and the LLMs will discover you or index it, or whatever term you want to use? Or should you write for the visitor, your actual customer who comes to the site? Or should you do a mixture of both?
Well, it's funny. We were having a conversation with a client this morning about this, and they were saying, should we be doing all these blogs anymore? And the answer is absolutely yes, because that is the content that the LLMs still need. And so you should be writing for your audience, because LLMs have a better sense of your audience than search ever did before. So having that content on your site is critically important. I would just say that content needs to focus more on frequently asked questions and questions of all kinds. You should also have content off of your website. So we're entering this age where it's kind of a 0-click thing. You've probably seen that people click through to your website less than they used to because of fear of, is this a phishing link in the email that you sent? All those kinds of things. And so your content needs to be able to stand on its own without a link to your website, although linking to your website is still a good idea. And it needs to be incredibly helpful in every moment. It needs to be differentiating in every moment. So if you can be funny, if you can be really helpful, but in we're in a place where social media video is really important and it's not polished and all that kind of stuff. It's just incredibly helpful. Some of the biggest sites on YouTube are just helpful sites that, whether I'm looking at how to fix my air conditioner or blow up my tire when I have a flat tire, we go to YouTube no matter where we are. And so, making sure that you have YouTube content is critically important. YouTube is a bigger streaming service than all the other streaming services combined.
Some great advice. So let me ask you this. I mean, you are this tremendous resource yourself, and you do your monthly webinars. Is it monthly or weekly? Monthly.
Monthly.
Monthly webinars. Where do you go to learn and stay up on the latest, greatest tools, trends, techniques, etc.?
Yeah. So, it's funny because AI is really helpful for this. I have subscribed and my team subscribes to many newsletters, many authority sources, depending on the subject matter area, whether it's paid ads or outbound email or anything that we specialize in. They become certified in it. We really keep up to date. And it's been a lot of time to go through all that information. And today we can use AI to summarize a lot of that information that we used to have to subscribe to. So it's a really fun time. We do something in our company where we share what we're learning across the team all the time. That's probably feels old school, but it's really helpful because there's so much and it's changing so fast. And so those are some of the times that my team feels like they learn the most from each other because it is changing so fast.
Yeah. Do you ever get, because you mentioned your team, do you ever get to the point where somebody says, hey, I've got this customer or this client, and this is what they look like and this is what they're trying to do. And I'm not sure what's the best strategy to offer. And then you come together as a team and kind of collaborate that way?
Yes, absolutely. It's really, it happens all kinds of time, not just on the initial, what do we do for the client, but something went wrong. Our ads were working great for 6 months and now all of a sudden they're not working great. And is it because Google's algorithm changed or LinkedIn's algorithm changed? And then we get together and we think about, okay, how do we adjust and how do we adjust quickly? And the cool thing about marketing today is that you can adjust a whole lot more quickly than you used to. In the old days, you would wait for Google to come back and recrawl your site like once a month. Now it recrawls everything every moment, and LLMs know all the content out there everywhere. So everything is instantaneous. And if you had a bad month with your marketing last month, there's absolutely a way to have a much better month this month. Awesome.
You did mention LinkedIn ads. Any thoughts in terms of ways to optimize it? We're actually doing fairly well on LinkedIn. We struck out on Google AdWords probably because it's the transition now from traditional search to the LLMs is obviously impacting it. Maybe there's some other reasons, but on LinkedIn we're doing okay. But it's weird. Like some weeks we will we'll have great results, and then like the following week we're like, we got this figured out, and the following week nothing, and it's like what's the difference? What's going on? Any thoughts in terms of best practices or any things that you've noticed on LinkedIn?
I think we have the same thing happen for us. So you're not alone. And just knowing that LinkedIn changes its algorithm almost as fast as Google does. Some of it is that. And it's what is the content? So we always go back to what is the content? And if the content performed really well last week, does it just need more amplification? Or should we be tweaking it because the content is now stale? Content gets stale much more quickly today than it ever used to. So, we had a case study that did tremendously well for like 6 months. Like the leads that we got off this case study were unbelievable. Huge enterprise companies wanting this data that we had in it. It was incredibly powerful. And then all of a sudden one day it stopped. And we really had to think, okay, have we saturated our market with that case study and we just need to provide a different one, or is there something else about it? And so we went back into the data and we found that that's what happened. We just saturated our market. It was kind of a niche audience with that case study, and we really needed to give them something new.
That makes sense in terms of our experience, because we're going after, I would say, a relatively small niche in terms of not just the market, but the people in that market that we're trying to go after. And so maybe we just need to mix it up a little more. So some good advice there.
Keep in mind, it takes 7 to 16 touches to get somebody to raise their hand. Like when I first was in marketing, it was 7 touches to get someone to buy. Today, it's 7 to 16 or even more with AI touches to get somebody to raise their hand and say they want to talk to somebody. And so having different things, different channels for those touches. So a phone call, an email, a text, a LinkedIn webinar, those are all touches. So you can accelerate your velocity of your sales process by having more kinds of touches. But if you also have different kinds of content as you do those touches, then you multiply your success.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Historically, sales and marketing have had kind of this interesting relationship where sales would look at the marketing team and say, hey, give us leads. And the marketing team would say, hey, we're working on brand awareness and PDFs that you can hand out, or these exhibitions, that booking, and salespeople go get your own leads and do some cold calling and stuff like that. And these days, the environment for cold calling, well, one, you're not technically allowed to cold call a lot of organizations these days on the phone.
Right.
And even with emails, technically, there are a lot of limitations out there, especially if you get outside of the US. So a lot of the lead generation really has gotten pushed back to the marketing team. And so, or have the sales team use some of these marketing automation tools, sales automation tools. So what have you seen, like, in terms of best practice for, hey guys, let's all start pulling in the same direction. We're all actually part of the very same closely knit team here. What are some things that you've seen or things that companies can do to achieve that?
Yeah, for us, we are deeply embedded with sales at every one of our clients. So we're doing content planning together. We're doing campaigns together. We are monitoring leads, marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads to opportunities together. And in my view, it doesn't work anymore that you could have them be in separate silos.
Cool. I think that's some great advice and a great observation. Awesome. Well, hey, Sheila, I got some good ideas here from you. One is FAQs on every piece of content, maybe not every piece of content, but a lot of the contents. Start thinking about how your prospective buyers are using the the LLMs and the search engines to look for solutions. Get the information out there that they're looking for. What are the search terms that they're looking for? And that's, right. I think that's something right there that every company can kind of act upon without too much effort. And then some of these automated sales tools where you can actually, automate the SDR process and just scale with that, I think would be super helpful. If our listeners, viewers wanted to get more information from you, sign up for more of your webinars, your newsletter, etc., what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. They can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Sheila Kloefkorn, Kloefkorn. So they can absolutely reach me directly on LinkedIn. They can also go to our website at keomarketing.com, and we offer a complimentary audit, which is a roadmap for a company's success. It is completely free. It's a 40 to 50 page report that gives you detailed instructions on how you can improve your results. And you can fill out the form on our website to see if you qualify for that.
Awesome. Sheila, thank you so much for being on the Grow Fast podcast, and hope to cross paths with you in person someday soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mike.